Hi all, welcome to another Kingscrusher radio show. So it's the new year, the first one of the new year. It's about 10 past 9, usually this show. We're going to carry on looking at Vassily Ivanchuk, which we started last week, and in the World Rapid Championship. So this is kind of an interlude from Kasparov games. So let's have a look. Now, in this round 9, let's have a look at his round 9 game. He was playing against Pansilia, who had a fantastic tournament, actually. He had beat Carlsen and Nakamura, I think both of those in previous rounds. Very dangerous opponents to have for Vassily Ivanchuk, actually. In rapid. So let's see, knight f3. Let's put live book on and add a bit. Yep. Knight f3. Ivanchuk played e6. g3. We have an innovative b5 just to address, to parry that fianchetto bishop quite quickly. By the way, thank you for coming on YouTube. I know I should have made this, scheduled it in advance. I scheduled it just minutes before. Sorry about that. I forgot to do that in advance. Okay, so bishop g2, bishop b7. So both bishops parrying. This is quite an innovative idea. c5. Black's gaining space rapidly on the queen side. b3, knight f6, c4, and now black grips those dark squares, starts gripping the dark squares. Bishop b2 and a5, as if, you know, maybe later a4, maybe even a3, d4. Now this takes the fire out of white's fianchetto bishop when it's swapped off, which it is, and it leaves white, you know, some weaknesses actually, which are particularly like dangerous on rapid and blitz time controls. So bishop e7, e4. Now this is looking very, very scary if black takes this, because, you know, there's an unprotected piece here, right? Do you really want to take this? Black hasn't castled yet, but okay. In fact, yeah, it looks scary. It looks like a poisoned pawn of some sort, but in fact it is taken, and Ivanchuk is saying, okay, prove it. I can't see what's wrong with taking this pawn in particular. So he does dare to take this pawn. We have queen f3, yeah, looking through that diagonal to win material potentially. d5, rook e1, black castles now. C takes, e takes. In fact, black doesn't seem to have too much to worry about here. Already, you know, if there was any improvements, let me just quickly show if there was any improvements here. Maybe queen g4 is interesting, apparently. Queen g4 instead, just to hit the knight and g7. But remember, it's a rapid game, so we're not going to do such intense analysis. Let's just get the feel of the game, okay? So black won a centre pawn, and it seems actually, okay, queen g4 now is pointing at g7. Yes, knight f5, yes, dangerous, but bishop f6 extinguishes most of that. f3, the knight goes to c5, rook d1. Yeah, black is just, he's got a crushing position already. He's like +3 according to engines in this position. That centre pawn, I mean, Pansilia doesn't look anything like himself in his game against Magnus Carlsen, which, by the way, if you want, we should maybe check this out to put this in context. Would anyone like to see the Magnus Carlsen Pansilia encounter as part of this session, just to put this game in context? This position as white is full of weaknesses. I mean, it's a pawn down and full of weaknesses, and actually black's pieces are actually superbly great here. as well. If you look at it, they're actually superbly placed. Queen f5, rook e8, so both rooks are blasting down. Queen c2, knight d7, knight bd7, b takes. This is looking terrible because black's really piercing into these dark squares, right? Knight c6, okay, a forcing move, scary, but queen b6, takes, knight d4, a blockade, but it's under, in the context of black's activity, this looks terrible. It still looks terrible. Look at black's rooks. Rook ec8. Now rook c4, yeah. Disrupting. Look at white's development. Can't move a piece. d4 would drop if he moves the knight to d2 now. Knight b3. The queen goes to d6. This knight finally moves. Okay, the rook goes back. Knight c3, so black is firmly in the driving seat here at the moment. Knight d4, g6. We have this keeping a blockade at least on d4. Now knight d7, rook c2, knight e5, and this knight slips into c4. Queen g5, and yeah, believe it or not, I played through this game. I tried to play through it 3 times earlier, prior to this, believe it or not, at least 3 times, as well as last week. And it's at this part of the game I started to get lost. I don't know how black completely massacred white from this position, and okay, so just take this slowly. What is black doing? He's got very dominating knights. What is black doing? Take this slowly. f6. Take some squares. g5 and e5. Doesn't matter about light square weaknesses. The rook's going to be doubled soon, maybe. They're coming down the e file, it seems. Or they're supporting a knight hopping into the e file. Either king g1. Classic diagonal pressure, queen b6, king h1. Yeah, the rook's double, so they're either supporting now rook e1 or a knight hopping in. In fact, a rook does go in. It's a real positional crush, this game. It's like white's just played like a beginner or something, you know, not his rating. a4. Black's got loads of positional trump cards. And this a4 is pretty desperate. It's just taken en passant. Okay, just in case it was missed, and it wasn't. It was just, so there's 2 pawns up. h4 creating more weaknesses. It's possible Pantsular was exhausted by this round or something. Okay, knight e2. So the pressure's on now. What is the exact threat? Well, rook takes b3 is one of them. And knight takes g3, and also if knight takes here, rook takes. This is actually a forced mate in 7. There's actually a major threat of queen f2, but apparently it's a forced mate in 7 with rook f1, queen e6. Yeah, there's just so many weaknesses here. You'd expect white to just be mated here. It's mating, so this is pretty bad to take. But it's a bad position anyway. h5, knight takes g3 check, so 3 pawns up, 4 pawns up. It's a total massacre. Rook h1, and now crashing through with rook e2 check. Seems natural. Queen c7 threatening mate on g3. Now knight f4 check. And the other knight swings in just in case. There's 2 knights at it. And here actually white resigns. If he played on, it is a forced mate, as you might think. King g3, double check, check. Yeah. This is just ripping white apart. Well, it looks clearly pretty bad. For example, like this. Yeah. Because the queen's helpless and queen g3 is threatened here, right? If takes, then we can just crash through like this, it seems. And yes, that'll be it. For example, here rook g2. We're just going to finish quite quickly. But yeah, it was quite a massacre. And for those just theoretically interested, hang on, let's have a quick look, because white did try and play solidly. Now, those interested in this b5, in live book, b5 is the 5th most popular move, actually. Knight f6, d5, f5, these are all more popular. b6, b5, but it has been played 165 times. So, yeah, very, very interesting opening as well, this b5. And yeah, it's not just for fun. It does seem to do something. b5. It's accelerating the fianchetto. It's accelerating queenside expansion. That was a real positional murder, wasn't it? It's a real positional murder. But this is amazing. The same player had a fantastic game, totally fantastic game against Magnus Carlsen, Pan-Sulia. You might not believe that. Does anyone believe that? First of all, has anyone not seen? Has anyone not seen Pan-Sulia versus Carlsen? I think I have to show that to put this in context, because you know, the same player, I know this by myself, can play one day amazing and the other day, you know, not so good. So yeah, let's put this game in context, because this is a bit unfair actually, just before moving on to another Ivanchuk game. Yeah, Pan-Sulia had a fantastic tournament. I need to, well, in the we're talking about the rapid, right? So I'm going to have to show you his game against Carlsen, which I have seen before a few times. Played for it a couple of times at least. So Levant Pan-Sulia, in round 1, he had a great game against Carlsen, and also later he had a great game again against, I believe, Nakamura. Yes, in round 10. So this same guy in round 1. Let's have a look. He did. So against Carlsen, we're going to flip the board. So knight f3, but Carlsen, Magnus Carlsen, played d5 more classically than Ivanchuk. So just mirrored a bit. c4 was played, and actually, okay, so c4 here, this early c4, that was taken. Knight a3. White seems to get, you know, a comfortable position. He's not hassled with his bishop being parried on g2 that quickly. So White seems to have, against Magnus, so Magnus Carlsen's playing black. This is in round 1, and yeah, it looks as though here that actually an exchange sack is being offered, isn't it, with e4? That isn't used here. That isn't played. Magnus Carlsen plays bishop e6. If e4, let's have a quick look at this exchange sack. Apparently this is just better for white because it's a pawn in exchange and the dark squares are compromised and there's bishop h6 on the way. This is just horrible apparently for black. So Magnus avoided this position. For example, like this, it gets horrible apparently. You might think the clear threat might be e5 to open up lines. Let's just go with, or knight d5. It's just better for white. Even though the exchange down, it's just better for white. Which you might agree with intuitively. And also there's things like knight d4 to e6. So yeah, Magnus doesn't want to like do this win the exchange. So he plays bishop e6. The rook gets out of the way. Queen d7. This does allow knight g5 now, which stops bishop h3, and here actually the knight swings back and is now threatening potentially that's useful, or knight e3 just to hit the bishop. f5, the knight swings into c5, e4, And Magnus is actually giving up voluntarily now. Well, I think he might have to. The light square bishop. Let's see why. Why does he play this? Because I thought this was strange at the time of seeing this game to give up the light square bishop. If he moves there, I think white's better. E takes, opening up the bishop. Bishop G5. This is alright for white. Anyway, so Magnus gave up voluntarily the light square bishop. And okay, if B takes, I think F4 apparently. This is quite good for black. F4. Maybe with the idea of knight D4 and then F3. That's dangerous. But actually D takes was taken this way. I think that might take some of the sting out of F4 actually. If F4 wasn't actually played here, if F4 here, it's very different actually. Bishop C3, and okay, yeah, there's some pressure on black's position, like E5. So anyway, okay, so D takes in this position, B6, knight D3. Queen D7, bishop C3. You can see E5 is under fire. This is a problem for black. Rook A D8. And now knight B2. Queen E6. Queen E2 because the queen was attacked there. Now F4 here, but note without the light square bishop, these squares are quite snug actually at the moment. Rook F D1. Queen F7. And white actually plays bishop h3. So this light square bishop's quite nice. F3, queen e1. Knight b4 is played. That's taken. And now actually a very interesting move indeed is played in this position. It's not total like firework move, but it stops black from getting such a bind on the position. So if you were white, I hope you can see this. White play. What would you play with white? White play. Anyone got any thoughts here? What would you play with white? I'll give you 100 points, if virtual points, if you can guess what white played in this position. What would you play with white? Any ideas? Yeah, okay, I hope you get this kind of positional liberating move, which is justified in this position. C5. It gives that C4 square. It stops black setting up some sort of bind, potentially. Well, maybe, on the D4 square. It'll be difficult to achieve this here. It's like tactically impossible to play this anyway because of C takes hitting the knight there. That's one thing. That's one little thing. Okay, so bishop h6 is played. But now something staggering is played. Well, in this position, there's a smart move as well. Instead of moving the rook, I mean the rook could be moved here. It's still an advantage for white, but instead c takes was played. Brilliant move. Again, offering the rook here, but if this is taken, then we will get this position: takes, and then takes, threatening to queen, and that would be huge for white. This position, this can't. We could take with the bishop there, and if here, take here. This is like gigantic position for white. That's much better for white. Threatening queen takes e7 here, and queen takes e5. That's more than enough for the exchange, and this one's dropping as well. So the knight happens to be holding d1, the queen's holding d2. So nothing bad is happening to the king here. And if here, queen d8 check. So yeah, white's doing well in the variations. I mean, they're a bit tricky, but white's doing well in the variations if the rook's taken. So Magnus just calmly took there, but it does allow this rook infiltration. Nasty pin, unpins, but then one pawn drops. Remember, the knight's holding the rook. This is possible to do this. The knight's holding the rook. Rook d8. Okay, rook d7 instead of moving the knight there. If he moved, the moving the knight's feasible as well, but he blocked. Now, is the knight coming to d4 as some sort of compensation? Check. Takes. So if queen takes, well, it would be hitting here. So let's examine. Knight takes was played. If Magnus plays queen takes, actually this is good for white. Takes here. There's things like here. This is good for white apparently. Yeah, this pawn's kind of weak actually, and in fact I think it's, yeah, all that one's going to drop off. So that's no good to do it like that. So we have knight takes, but still good for white here. Knight c3. That d5 square, you'll notice, is a big square to get a knight to. It's a huge square. Knight d5. Bishop g4. Going to take this dangerous fallen pawn out now. It's held on for one moment with knight d4, but this allows check. Bishop f8. h4, giving the king some extra safety with this escape square. h5. Bishop d7. This is just horrible. If you look at this knight and queen's holding on to the bishop, but we get a natural unpinning move, king g7, yeah? King h2, king h7, queen e8. It's gliding on the light squares, dancing on the light squares. Queen f7 is coming here. But you might ask, well, why did black give that square by playing this? Because black's in a bit of a bind, actually, I believe, here. Maybe best was queen c5, queen e8, and try something here. That's on. Try something here. Maybe that was best to try and hold on, but it's still not great. There's actually a counter chance. But takes. Apparently, this. I mean, technically, it's check. It's fine. It's crazy. That's a crazy computer line, by the way. But yeah, it's good for white. But no, that was the best chance. Anyway, I'm just showing you the best chance was apparently to play queen c5. So that does seem kind of logical because it's opposite colour bishops. But king h7. So this queen e8, unfortunately, it looks very painful, right? The king going back. b4 takes away that queen c5 stuff. b5, maybe trying to go over here to this one. Maybe. Bishop takes b5. No, the knight's holding b6. Scrap that. The knight's holding b6. Knight c2. Yeah, it's pretty hopeless. a3. The dark square counterplay doesn't seem to exist, in fact. Basically, black's waiting to die on the light squares, and there's no dark square counterplay because of, yeah, this knight's gigantic. The queen's infiltrated much more than black queen. We have king h6, queen f7, and the threat here includes bishop e8. Well, that's like the major one. Let's put more pressure on. Now we have knight d4, knight f6 threatening this mate in 1. That's another major threat now. Or knight g8 is a mate in 1. So that's trying to be parried, but can you guess a finishing move here? White to play and win. This is the finishing move that Pansulia played against Magnus Carlsen in round 1. So this was played 26th of December, by the way. 26th of December. 2016. So this is round 1. The finishing move here, can you see? So the bishop's attacked, right? Yeah. That was ignored. No, just taking here. Forcing move. That causes resignation, because if takes, then we have check. Not only winning a piece, but also protecting the bishop. Totally winning. And if king e7 trying to get a piece, check, and then we can either protect the bishop, or I think we can even just play this. Piece up. So yeah, Pansula played that game against Magnus Carlsen, so worthy of mention. And also he had a great game, it seems, against Nakamura later. I'm just making sure, have I actually seen that game? I think I might have a little bit. That's quite a dynamic played game against Nakamura. I'm just reviewing it very briefly. Crikey. Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone want to see his game against Nakamura? Hansula versus Nakamura. Anyone want to quickly see that? Or we carry on the Ivanchuk, another Ivanchuk game. Yeah, okay. The Pansula against, like, Nakamura against Pansula with black. This is a bit of a detour. Sorry, this is a bit of actually an unintended detour. But you know, he was like a giant killer in this tournament. So Nakamura was playing white. This is in round 8. Okay, so Nakamura was playing in round 8 against Pansula. So d4. We have knight f6. We have actually a Benoni. We're going to Benoni. Very dangerous opening, actually. e4, g6, f3, bishop g7, bishop g5, castles, queen d2. Although White's plan looks sort of logical, he has weakened a few dark squares, and Benoni's quite a lot about the dark squares. h5, queen e8 unpinning. Knight h7 hitting the bishop drops back. Bishop d7, which does support b5 potentially. White didn't try and stop that actually in this position. Is a4 mostly pointless? Maybe, because black can just play on this side of the board. White hasn't castled yet or anything. He didn't bother with that, so he allows b5. But now a4, b4, it gets sharp. So threatening, knight takes d6. That's taken. And also, of course, knight c7 is threatened as well. So maybe this is Nakamura's point. He's winning the light square bishop. He should be okay here. Okay. Black's good on the dark squares usually. Queen c8. Yeah, this looks a little bit dodgy, maybe. Queen c7, hitting the knights. First of all, white takes that and then moves the knight. Check. b3. This gives the b4 square to play with. Sometimes that could be useful. f4. That's used now. Queen d3. Knight f6. Threatening. No, actually I thought it was threatening knight e4, but maybe that's not the major thing. The major thing might actually be knight g4 to go into here. But the queen does look as though it's got work cut out protecting things. That e4 pawn is protected, but now knight g4 threatening knight f2, that's protected. But now queen e7 threatening potentially knight takes is a nice little trick, but it suffers from queen h3. So the actual threat is a preliminary rook takes c4, and then knight takes h2, and then this will be mate because the bishop's cutting like the escape square. So rook takes c4 is threatened. Black is threatening rook takes c4. Just to show you, here, sorry, knight takes h2 is vicious actually. If that's taken, then it's mate, and if it's not taken, it's still vicious. For example, knight f1 threatening mate, and if g3, yeah, it's horrible. So we have the move here, g3, to stop all this stuff. But h4, and look, if the king moves, we've got this h file. King g2, h takes, king moves, and we've got the h file coming up. The h file attack. King f3, knight f6, rook h1. Okay, but white's defending, it seems, for the moment. Rook c8. What's up with rook c8 now? Yeah, it's maybe the idea is like to take here and to actually get the pawn and put pressure across the diagonal, because you can imagine then things like f5 being dangerous if the queen's here. E5 takes, knight takes, queen d6, and the threat here is now, for example, taking. This is scary, actually, taking. If that's ignored, that's very, very strong here. Just to give an example, I'll give a token move. This c4 check, and that diagonal with the bishop is really dangerous. Just to show you what's going on here. It's quite a crushing position. There's a lot of pressure here on e4. So white's got to be careful about this sort of sacrifice in this position, because the king, look at where the king is in relation to these diagonals. So we have actually queen takes a6, which supports the bishop and hits the rook. So okay, the game continues. Rook c7. Now queen a8 threatening mate. Knight h5 stops that. Knight d3, rook b6, rook e5. It's a sharp game. Now this is a mistake. It seems this is a big mistake to play this, and it's exploited. It's tapped into. Because remember I mentioned about this diagonal, and look at the rook here is a loose piece on h1. We have bang, weakening the diagonal. So if takes, bishop takes, remember we're gonna hit this diagonal, winning the rook here. Yeah, we're gonna win the rook. So that's why this was a terrible mistake, it seems, technically, and in reality. Rook e5. White's best apparently was queen e8 for those interested, and still white was in the game with a small advantage. But yeah, he played rook e5, and so we have this blast on the diagonal. White can't take. What he does do is take here, try and open maybe black's king up, you know, for things like the check and something like, you know, the queen coming in. But we have now rook c8, queen a5. Now this is taken. Rook takes h5. Here, if takes here, check. This is much better, because look, it's much better for black. There's a check here. Check here. White's falling apart basically. So it's white's king that seems more unsafe here. Okay, we carry on. Rook 6 c7. That's taken. Actually, you know, white's just the rook down. Funny enough, white's just the rook down. There's no attack, and yeah, he got wiped out. And yeah, he resigned here into forced mate in this final position. So Pansilia played like an amazing tournament. These were the two giant killers he took out. Yeah, they include Magnus Carlsen and Nakamura. Karyakin managed to beat him. Ivanchuk managed to beat him. Grischuk managed to beat him. But yeah, he did take out, to his credit, Magnus Carlsen and Nakamura. Now let's go back for one last game to have a look at Ivanchuk again, which was actually the main focus originally. So another key game I'd like to show you was against Vassily Ivanchuk. Let's have a look at this one and see what happened. So back to the main news story. So Anand against Ivanchuk. This is round 14. Okay, so this is the penultimate round. There were 15 rounds in this World Championship Rapid tournament. So round 14. Okay. Really? Was it round 14? It does say it's round 14. Okay, I think it was. So e4 from Vassily Anand. c5. We have knight f3, e6. Okay, d4. We have a Sicilian defense, a6, c4 Morocco bind, knight f6, knight c3, bishop b4 from Ivanchuk, queen d3. Okay, so we have a Morocco bind position, queen c7, knight c6. Okay, it takes away from center. This pardon me, can sometimes be used to help influence the center, the d4 square in particular. Bishop e3, b5 wants to sometimes chase this knight back, and he actually does that, and then locks down the d4 square. Actually, so ideally he wants to lock down the d4 square and lock this bishop in to the pawn chain. That's his plan, it seems, and get a knight into here later. So there's a good dark square grip from Vassily Ivanchuk here. A good dark square grip on the position. Knight d7, and the key maneuver would be something like this, which is aim for, and it is actually aim for knight b8. Because if you get a knight in on d4, then you're either getting one of two juicy squares. If it's this one, then you get like this diagonal. You get pressure, and as well as the e5 square. So bishop d2, knight c6. Yeah, so Vishy's been a bit. I think black's fine here. Black's doing very well. Bishop g5. If black can exchange off the dark square bishops, leaves this more blocked in bishop. So queen d8, bishop f1. Now, a really nifty attacking move is played. I mean, it's already a great position for black to be in. But can you see a really nifty attacking move played by Ivanchuk? So black's play here. What do you reckon Ivanchuk played in this position? So any ideas? Black to play here. Any ideas? Okay, so black switched the rook in, rook a6. Look at this. Isn't this nifty? Wow. So bishop takes g5, queen takes, queen h5. So the threat is actually rook h6 now. That's played. So at least it's going to provoke some extra weaknesses, which it does. So, okay, rook f2, queen h4. Threatening maybe queen g3 and then rook takes h3 coming up. f4 taking away that possibility. E takes, queens come off. Okay, rook e6, f6, bishop c6. Bit of manoeuvring here. Just giving you a flavour of the game. Actually, it's not meant to be an exhaustive analysis. It's only a rapid game anyway. So black has a great position, and okay, rook b7, king g8. That in rook, the knight's attacked. Bishop f7, check. Rook a7, check. Now here. Yeah, white's actually doing well here, despite all of what I've said. Actually, white's doing well, but I think it was, yeah, they're both probably in great time pressure. After king g7, yeah, rook b6, white's doing okay. Knight d2, rook e7, check, check. Now here, there's a big blunder played. In fact, white should maybe just repeat here, but actually a gigantic blunder was played. Rook f5 on move 61. Can you see black to play and win? So black to play. What does black play in this position? I hope you can spot it. Yeah, okay, I hope you can spot it. Rook takes e5. Because, yeah, there's that nasty fork. Yeah. White resign here. The knights are very tricky on Rapid and Blitz. That nasty fork. Yeah. Okay, he got a bit lucky in that game, but I thought he had a good position earlier anyway. So, anyway, Vassily Ivanchuk ended up winning the World Rapid Championship section 2016. And he did alright in the Blitz, and then wanted to find the local checkers chess club, which he'd been told about, because he's also into checkers apparently. So that's interesting as well. Okay. Okay, so well done to Vassily Ivanchuk. Just a quick flavour of some games this evening. So hope you have a good week, and see you next week. Comments, questions, likes, appreciate it on YouTube. Thanks very much. Happy New Year. Cheers then.